So in this video, we're going to talk about calorie density. Now, calorie density is basically the calories per gram of food. Some foods contain a lot of calories for very little food. So take the example of the Reese's Pieces. It is about 5 calories per gram, which means in 100 grams, there's about 500 calories. Then on the other hand, you have some foods that contain a lot of food for very little calories. An example of this, which is a great example, is an apple. They have half a calorie per gram, so 100 grams gives just 52 calories. So when we compare the two, you can see that the Reese's chocolate contains 10 times the amount of calories in the same amount of food. So when your goal is fat loss, it can be useful to focus on eating foods that provide a lot of food in terms of quantity for very few calories, because this is going to leave you feeling fuller for longer as the volume of food you've eaten is higher, even though the calorie content is low. So in this example, you'd have to eat a kilogram of apples, which is about 10 apples in total, to get the same amount of calories as you would from just about 100 grams of Reese's chocolate. And I'm sure you can understand how eating 10 apples is going to leave you feeling fuller for longer and potentially much more satisfied than eating just 100 grams of chocolate. It's also going to make it easier to stick to your daily nutrition targets and reach your goals. If you're trying to gain muscle, the opposite of this can be true. So eating foods that contain lots of calories in small amounts of food can be useful for hitting higher daily calorie targets without feeling stuffed and bloated. So let's take a look at how calorie density can actually affect a meal. So we're going to take a look at a healthy breakfast. On the left-hand side, we've got some yogurt, some honey, some blueberries, and a native green drink. So that comes with about 619 calories. Now, if we swap the yogurt for a 0% yogurt, so it's slightly lower in calorie, and then we took out the honey but kept the blueberries, and we swapped the naked greens drink with a bulk powders greens powder, and all we've done is swap regular yogurt for 0% yogurt, so it's a lower calorie option. We've taken the honey out and kept the blueberries, and we've swapped the high calorie naked greens drink and swapped it for a greens powder instead. That means there is a 403 calorie difference between these breakfasts. That's how calorie density can actually affect your calorie intake. These are pretty much the same breakfast in terms of amount of foods, but the calorie difference is massive. With this breakfast example, you can see how we consumed a similar amount of food, but the second option has taken up less of your daily calorie budget or your daily calorie target. So it's important to look at calorie density. And if your goal is fat loss, like I mentioned earlier, it's good to focus on calorie-sparse foods that have a low number of calories per gram, and this is going to allow you to eat more while keeping your calorie consumption low. And if muscle gain is your goal, it can be useful to focus on foods that are calorie dense. These are foods that have a high number of calories per gram. This means if you have a high calorie target that sometimes might be difficult to reach, this is going to make it easier for you to reach that target without feeling stuffed and bloated like you're overeating all the time. So there you can see the importance of not only calories, but calorie density. It's always useful to check out how much food you're getting from the amount of calories you're about to consume. This can have a huge effect on whether or not you succeed.